I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Ghosty and, a Metallica guy.
That's Hetfield. And we also have...
it is. I can see the... You know what's funny? I finally can recognize him now. And you know why? It's not because we watched the live videos. It's because we saw that little documentary thing.
Really?
When the guy came up and touched the guitar.
The guy. That's Lars.
Yes, Lars came up and touched James Hetfield's guitar. Okay. But that's not what we're doing.
For timely, topical, political commentary, you can hit us up in Middle America with Vin and Sori.
Mm-hmm. We're doing Throwdown for big homie Matt.
Shout out to the big homie Matt. There are multiple ways to get your song reviewed, dear listener. You can, my favorite way is the community option. I call it the community option. $1 at the gate at Patreon. And then a leader of an alliance will reach out to you, try to recruit you into their dark web of doom. It's genre specific, so you got like a black metal group and a power metal group, etc., etc., etc. And they pull their points together, and then boom, there you go. So that's what we're doing here. Another way to do it, which I think Matt took the fast pass option,
he did.
Right? The partner tier option.
Fast pass. Yep.
$125 and you get jumped straight to the head of the line. We might be doing a little thingamajiggy in a week or two. Stay tuned. Mm-hmm. I have a habit of coming up with ideas on the fly and then announcing them and not consulting, so I'm not doing that right now. So it probably won't happen because she'll shoot it down because there'll be a bunch of variables. So
stop.
Consider it false advertising.
I was actually talking to the kids today, and they were like, Why does father just announce things? Because they heard you announcing that you're going to get 2 of these. Because, Dorian, he's very business-minded. He's like, that's so bad for the business. And then I was like, no, actually, I'm like, your father doesn't do that whether because of it's good or bad for the business. I'm like, he's just doing that because he loves the people and they've been with us since the beginning.
Oh, it's Carmen and Leah. It's Carmen and Leah.
So I was like going to bat for you.
Yeah, it's Carmen and Leah.
I was like, plus people like an authentic channel. Your father makes it very authentic. Genuine.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, this King Gizzard guy, man, his band is, their label's pretty crazy about going after us. Unbelievable. We
got another one, even though I took everything out?
Yeah, we'll deal with it later. Unbelievable. But hey, the people wanted it, so we got it for them. This is forever.
Suckers, we went through Vimeo.
Throwdown. Right. We had to buy a subscription to Vimeo so our people could see our videos.
Yeah.
These are the things that we do for you beautiful people. You have no idea.
It got blocked, so you'll have to, if you go on our Patreon, I made it public for everybody, so you don't even have to.
That one we gave to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we go above and beyond, ladies and gents, to get you your stuff.
Yeah.
You'll notice that, just FYI, like, you'll notice in other reaction channels, no disrespect to them, but they cut up the videos like every 20, 30 seconds. The reason for that is because you can avoid copyright hits that way, right? So then you can fully monetize the video. We decided very, very early on not to do that, so we've got over 1,000, little copyright notifications from YouTube, from basic other record labels. So no, we don't make money on that. However, that's why we're such believers in Patreon, and we just believe, hey, people are gonna, $1, $5, yada yada yada, and there's incentives across the board. So
yeah, and there's like lots of people who jump on. They just say, I love what you guys do, and so I'm gonna just jump up in there.
Right.
It's worth $1 a month to me, or $5 a month, or whatever.
Right. And the other thing is that sometimes, even though, so we basically made a deal with ourselves and said, okay, fine, let the record label have the money. That's okay. But sometimes the record label will even block the video so that people can't see it at all. So back in the day, what we had to do was we had to put a little thing and say, hey, just follow the link on YouTube here and you can listen along, and you wouldn't be able to see the actual video of us reacting to it. So then Sori bought us a subscription to Vimeo where you can post on Vimeo. So now when a video gets blocked, we send you over to Vimeo.
But the only way to get the link to Vimeo is you have to go on Patreon, because that's where the link is posted.
But again, when it's those types of things, we make it available to everybody in the public. There are Patreon exclusive thingamajiggies, but anyway, we're talking too long. Forever, Throwdown, let's do it.
It's Forever is the name of the thing.
Yeah,
we're talking too long. Forever, go.
About you, your bullshit attitude. You're fucking weak and living, so you For my family forever, I'll take this to the bitter end. For myself, for my friends, for my family forever, I'll take this to the bitter end. You don't know a single thing about me, just what my enemies say. Well, fuck them and fuck you, this shit will run it today. Be a fucking man, stand up to find the truth in yourself. For yourself, by yourself, and not from anyone else. You think you know why I'm here after all these years? You wanna know? Well, I'll tell you fucking why I go. For myself, for my friends, for my family forever, I'll take this to the bitter end. For myself, for my friends, for my family forever, I'll take this to the bitter end. Yo, the fuck are you? I'm still here and still proud, and I still know what it takes to be true. Yeah, to be true. For myself, for my friends, for my family. Oh, straight fucking edge.
Whoa.
It kinda sounded, the vocalist sounded like Phil from Pantera a little bit.
I can see that.
For myself, you know, he sounded a little Phillish,
Yeah.
little Phillish action, a little Philly.
Have you heard of them before?
No, that's why I googled them. I was like, is Phil? Because you know that Phil is in like 4 or 5 bands, so I was like, maybe this is a band we've never heard of before from Phil. But they're a straight edge band, which is really interesting.
What does that mean, straight edge?
Straight edge means they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't like, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not necessarily like
Interesting.
Christian, but like living a clean type of lifestyle type of thing.
Wow.
Which this seems to be like almost like a straight edge anthem because it says right there,
yeah.
straight edge at the very, very end.
Okay.
Which is interesting because it looks like
When he's saying he does it for himself, for his friends, for his family.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, which, you know, when you're going into those recovery centers and stuff, they tell you that you got to do it for yourself first. Mm-hmm. You know, and then, you know, your family, your friends, and all that jazz.
People that go into recovery centers or people that go into those addiction groups are having trouble right now because they can't meet up.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
Jeez, so many ramifications to this situation.
Yep, there are.
God almighty. Yeah, shout out to everybody that's in that situation. We praying for y'all for sure. It's it must be, you know, never being in that situation, like always being the people on the outside looking in, and we were always the supporting cast for that person. So I've never really experienced the other side of that, which is people trying to drag you back into that lifestyle, or maybe people trying to say that you're fake or whatever. It seems like he's reacting to something. I know a thing or two about you, your attitude, you're weak. Let me tell you, it shows right through. You don't know anything about me or my friends, but they are what I am. Cut the shit, try not to pretend. You're scared of who and what you are, and so you question yourself, but your pride won't let you show your fear to anyone else. You don't know me, so don't judge me. You don't know you, you're too scared to. That's a good line.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good line.
That is a good line.
You think you know why I'm here after all these years. You want to know, well, I'll tell you why. Myself, my friends, my family.
Forever. I'll take this to the bitter end.
So it looks...
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's... You kind of almost have to have like a hostile overreaction, I would assume, to people who are trying to get you back in there.
Yeah.
Because... Like,
well, if you show any sort of weakness, I think that it's going to come at you all the time more and a lot more pressure.
Yeah.
But when you come at something with a bit of aggression, then people give you your space on it.
Yeah, because, like, and it's a weird, there's this biblical principle that whenever you try to turn to God and again, this doesn't necessarily mean the person's turning to God. There have been millions of people who've been clean without, them consciously turning to God. Now, obviously, we believe it's because God empowered them to do that, but that's a separate issue. But I'm just saying, from a biblical perspective, anytime you try to go in the right direction, your greatest enemies aren't necessarily like demons from, Gehenna. Like, your greatest danger reverting back to old lifestyles becomes people that you were once cool with, and then what ends up happening is they're actually the ones judging you, but they will spin it around and turn it into you judging them. So they'll say things like, "Oh, you're too good for us now," yada yada yada. And it's like, "Whoa, bro, I didn't say that. You said that." But so it's almost like, like your ability to overcome that stuff, and your ability to put down the bottle or put down the whatever, the drug or whatever, take out the nail, your ability to do that and your stick-to-itiveness to that makes them feel judged within, because they're judging themselves. They're insecure about themselves, and they're saying, how come I can't do what he's doing? And it looks like he's a lot more healthy and he's a lot more free, and hell, even on a practical level, like he can actually spend his money on something else. And so, because they don't feel that they're strong enough, and he says it in the third line, you're just weak. Because they don't feel that they're strong enough to do what you did, they then start, projecting that insecurity onto you, and then they'll say things like you're judging them, they'll act like you're judging them, and yada yada yada. And they'll do everything they can, and the only thing that will make them happy is for you to go back there and do what they were doing.
Right. Yeah.
Which will kill you, many times over. So I remember one time we're hanging out, and I was just sitting there listening to stories of these people, because they were like a drug rehab type thing. And it was at the Corn Show with Brian.
Oh yeah.
And one of the guys was kind of like on the beginning, the sort of, like, he was like the middle way up the mountain, and like the majority of the report was kind of like, oh yeah, we hope he's gonna make it, and he's gonna do well, and yada yada yada. But it was kind of like there was like this uneasiness in the room. Yeah. And he would talk about like the last time like he relapsed or whatever, and it was because he had to check out. He was like, I want to check on how my other friends are doing. Yeah. And it was one of those things where it's that's kind of like massive warning sign, and then that ended up perpetuating that. Yeah. That was a catalyst.
Or they'll say, I have to go back to where I used to stay. I think I left a sweatshirt there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're back where everybody is. Yeah. You're using, and then you start using, and
and the hard thing is sometimes, like, it's a horrible thing to say, but sometimes you just have to completely cut bait with those people. But you feel this sort of, they're your friends, they're, hearing some of the stories was crazy, like icicles forming on your eyelids because you're sleeping outside and all that. Like, the guy was just going down the ringer of like all the things that you go through. And take personal responsibility, they're not victims, like I get all that, but at the same time it's like, that's a hellish way to live, man. So then you start getting clean and you start feeling better, and then obviously you're going to want your friends to, it's just like becoming a Christian. It's like It's not you're trying to force your religion on people. It's just, whoa, this thing has completely changed my life for the better, yada, yada, yada. I want everybody to know it. And then it gets interpreted a different way. So I think it's the same thing here. It's like, you know, it's a hard thing to be able to say, like, yep, I love this. I would love this for my friends. But A, they're not in that place where, you know,
Yep.
they have that determination. And B,
Yep. They have to be ready.
Yeah, I am more likely to fall back into it than they are likely to get out of it.
Yep.
You know, like I had a Christian dude, older Christian dude, give me a really good
Analogy. I wonder if it's the same one I have in my head.
well, yeah, the glove, right? Where he said, look, you know, if you take a glove, okay, and you dump it into a pool of mud, the mud doesn't get glovey, the glove gets muddy.
Right.
And he was like, you know, it's a terrible analogy because I'm not saying that your friends are a pool of mud. I'm just saying that it's much more based on the world that we're in and the nature of human beings. It's much easier to fall into bad habits as one person than fall into good habits as three people versus one good example. So
They used to give us the analogy of one person standing on a chair and the other person standing on the ground. It's easier for the person on the ground to pull the person off the chair than it is for the person on the chair to pull the person up to them.
Yeah.
So it's like that. I mean, I knew somebody that said, look, I want to go back in my sweatshirt. And I said, yeah, but why do you need that sweatshirt? Get another one. She was like, no, legit, it's my favorite sweatshirt.
I know, yeah.
But she said, will you bring me and wait in the car so I'm in and I'm out? So she knew that she had a tendency to kind of go back to it, but she set it up so that way she wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and so the hard truth is some of these people, like, you're just gonna have to completely cut bait with them and never see them again.
Yep.
You know, because because your life becomes like completely subsumed with it. It's not that they're bad people; they're just their entire life is about the next hit.
Yeah.
And everything and everyone in their life becomes a means of doing that. And the other thing is nobody likes to do that stuff alone. Nobody wants to be alone in the throes of that type of situation. So sometimes you kind of have to project a certain degree of hostility toward it to get away from it.
And the other thing too is that when you make a decision like that and you walk away from it, sometimes your decision impacts somebody else to make a decision for themselves. Maybe not at that point, but a little bit further down the road. So, you know, your decision to change your life might end up saving somebody else's life. You know, it just...
Yeah, that's really the best way to look at it, really, is to say, you know, if you define love as wanting the ultimate good for the object of your affection, then that has implications, because what that means is you being around them might not necessarily be the ultimate good. The ultimate good might be, you know, them running around and hearing about you on the street and seeing that you really, really turned that corner and that you never really look back, and that, you know, you're no longer associating with those folks. And that might give them the amount of hope or the inspiration that they need. There's some relationships where, based on the way they start, they can never get rejuvenated again. And, you know, if they're sometimes, not all the time, and it's very tricky, but if the relationship starts in a certain way and is part of a certain subculture and you leave that subculture, it is many times, not all the time, very likely that you're going to have to leave those folks behind, even if they're genuine, good-natured people. And it's not just one way. It's not that they could bring you down, but it's also you could bring them down in a moment of weakness. You know, sometimes you need to be surrounded by people who are going to give you that strong, supportive cast, and you might be the toxic one on the way to your recovery. So this is a song where, like, I've done this in my life where, like, I project a certain type of hostility, but I don't feel that hostile to the person at all. I just project a certain type of hostility so that they can, you know, keep their distance so that I can go off and do what needs to be done, because and I think just because somebody's having a negative effect on your life or a toxic effect on your life, people automatically call that person a toxic person. I don't think that that's true. Sometimes it's just, you know, it's like, gasoline, it's like fire and oxygen. Like, it, you know, it just so happens that when fire and oxygen gets together, there's a giant forest fire, right? But there's another context where oxygen can save your life. So sometimes when oxygen mixes with something, it'll kill you, and sometimes when oxygen mixes with something, and it's going to save you. So you can't say that oxygen is toxic because it's it's contributed to a forest fire. No, it just happens that there's certain combinations of people in your life that will create a forest fire, and there are other combinations of people in your life that'll make it, they'll promote life. And so sometimes you have to do that type of arithmetic, and it doesn't mean, like, I always kind of cringe a little bit when I hear, oh, so-and-so's a toxic person. Like, I don't think that people are, like, ontologically or, like, by nature toxic. Now, I know Kellen Joss, oh, what are you talking about? It's because you're not listening to me. I don't think people are, like, I think there are very, very few, like, absolutely toxic people in the world. I just think that there are bad people combinations for certain people.
Yeah.
And so, it takes a lot of wisdom to say, you're not toxic, I'm not toxic, we're just toxic together. So we need to separate. And, in a perfect world, you could sit down and have this conversation with pure logic, but, human beings are not androids, so we don't just operate on pure logic. And so sometimes you have to kind of create different, and here there's a lot of, there's that tough, like that hardcore type of thing, and he's like fighting for his friends and his family till the bitter end. And I'm sure, like, if he could have had the conversation, in a nice manner, he would have. But this person, who are you? I'm still here, I'm still proud, and I still know what it takes to be true. And the other guy hasn't gone that far in the path, because the guy won't even face himself. It says, who are you? You're scared. You're too scared to find out, basically. You don't know a single thing about me, just what my enemies say. Fuck them and fuck you. That shit won't cut it today. Be a man and stand up to find the truth in yourself, yourself.
That line I thought was, you don't know a single thing about me, just what my enemies say. When that's true, it's not a fun situation. When people don't talk to you, they don't know from you. They just know what is said about you. You've had that happen to you a lot of times.
Yeah.
What? You're fine with that? I'm not.
Well, I just think, like, I very, very purposely don't. Most people don't know a single thing about me, and that's by design. So, my thought process is, if you do that with people, then you can't complain when they get information from other people. Because you did that on purpose. I'm talking about myself. I do it on purpose. Like, I'm very, on a personal level with people, and, I generally don't. Most of them don't know where I am at all about anything. It's just a lot of, like, it's like Fortnite when you put up those little hologram people and whatever. So it's that has its rewards and it has its benefits, right? And so
rewards and benefits. That's it.
Well, yeah.
Rewards
rewards and drawbacks. To me, it's all. Look, to me, if a person, they're just categories of people in my life, and so most people are in a certain type of category where they're not going to know actually who I am as a person, and so there's no benefit or loss to it. If they believe what your enemies say about you, well, who cares? That was by design. You put yourself in that situation, so you can't complain about it. And so, and the other thing is like, I don't really have a lot of, like, investment in people like that emotionally. So when all this starts, like, it doesn't affect me. I didn't invest a lot of that into you. But what I found is that they thought that I invested a lot into our relationship, and they're very angry and upset and hurt, and that's why they're going around doing this. And they get angry. They're angry at me for not. What I found is people get angry at me for not caring that they're talking shit about me. That makes them even more and more angry.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just, okay, all right. But that stuff bothers you, though.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't want you listening to my enemies and trying to get facts from my enemies.
Like who, though?
Obviously,
like
that
me
proves
or just other people?
I don't feel like you get facts from my enemies about me that.
Oh well, yeah. You would be different though. But I wouldn't. But the thing is, the way that I am, anybody who's your enemy would never even say anything about you to me.
Right.
They would never do it.
Right. No, I mean,
So-
like, just... See, I'm still stuck on... I don't know if it was because, you know, the way that I was raised, like, what people think was central to the way we were raised. Don't do that, you'll embarrass us in public. Don't do that. Oh, you guys made us so proud tonight, people noticed. Like, if people came out and said, hey, your kids are really well behaved, my parents were like, that was it. That was like, we got a bunch of rah, rah, rah. So it was more about impressing the people around you so that way you could get the approval you wanted from your parents.
Yeah.
And then, so everything was about how it was perceived, that those, you know, the Bible verses about, you know, I haven't quoted them in so long, but like, basically you were supposed to avoid all appearances of evil, things like that, like, so it was all about how a thing was perceived. So people's opinions and what people think about you and stuff was major. So now it's like trying to get out of that mindset. I mean, I'm 35 years old and I'm still trying to get out of that mindset. I've only started trying to get out of that mindset since you and I have been together. So it's only been 2 years, but it's still, it's a challenge, and I don't like it when people, I don't like it if somebody has bad or wrong thoughts about me. And I don't like it when they share those thoughts and when other people accept those thoughts as fact. That really bothers me. When the person didn't come and talk to me, didn't ask me anything about it, they just took what was said. It was like, I think to me it says, okay, you didn't want to think anything good of me. Because if, like, for instance, if somebody said something horrible about you, and I, like, felt like, oh, I wonder if that was, like, okay, something that's kind of, like, would fit your character. If they were like, Vin, slap that guy in the face. Like, I know you have violent tendencies. So I would be like, well, let me find out what happened. And I would come to you because I want to know, well, what actually happened? Like, you know, was it like the way they're saying it or how it, you know what I mean? Because I want to think good of you. But when you just take something negative that somebody says and you just run with it, then to me that's like, you wanted to think bad of that person the whole time. But it does bother me. I understand. I think that the way you live your life is a lot simpler. Just, I don't know how to get to that point where other people's opinions and stuff don't matter, and I don't put a lot of feelings into it.
I think it has to do with the fact that I moved around so much. And so, like, you'd create relationships with people and you would know that the thing was going to end eventually. So, like,
It's never like that for me, so.
Right, so anytime I'm in a relationship with somebody, you know, friendship or otherwise, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be friends with that person in 5 or 10 years. So it's like, okay, just enjoy them when they're around, and don't get all weird, and don't, like, put all of yourself out there. You know what I mean? Because most likely you're not necessarily gonna, you know, whatever. But at the time, don't get all defensive either. Just enjoy the time and have fun. But, you know, and the other thing is for me, I just always thought that you were naive. You people like you have a very hard time making genuine friendships because, especially in a small town, because of just the way that you are, people are immediately intimidated and they're immediately jealous. And I would watch and observe, and there were just people that you couldn't get along with. It wasn't you, they were just jealous. You know, and so they always had that underlying resentment of you. And so, you know, I would always be like, man, those people aren't your friend. But I wasn't going to tell you that, but, you know, I think that's one thing, like moving around a lot and things like that. I was able to tell, like, really quickly, like, who your actual friends are and who people are that are just around you, and then, you know, how jealousy operates in relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
And when you have a bunch of jealousy and insecurity, like, those people will turn on you in a second because if they look at you as some sort of, like, unattainable standard, they want to believe something bad.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, you just.
Yeah, I think that, like, if you spent your time in a palace, I didn't spend my time in a palace, but I did, you know, I came up in a nice environment.
Yeah.
So if you spend your time in a palace and then you start saying, wait a minute, all these people are fake in here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I can't trust this environment. But then you go down and you're, like, in the gutters with people and you're like, then I thought because the environment was so rough that I thought this is where you can find genuine relationships because you've been through things together.
Well,
like those nights when there was that giant fire and we all went down. It was the dead of the night, which for you is the middle of the day, but for the rest of humanity, that was a big deal to be up at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, making sandwiches, hot chocolate, helping people out, like working side by side with people.
Yeah, but the thing is, those people, the people that you were grinding for, love you to this day and did not accept negative things about you.
No, I'm saying the people that I was grinding with.
Yeah, the suburban people, whatever. But again, those people, it was different.
And not all of them, because there was some I was grinding for, even opened my house to, and it still...
Well, yeah, one of them, she doesn't really count.
How does she not count?
Yeah, she just... Because she was more suburban than she was street, even though she had street credentials. But she was like, she was a lot more put together. But she was full of jealousy. It was obvious.
Yeah, well, it wasn't obvious to me.
Well, I wasn't gonna run around and tell you like, hey, be careful for this person. This person's very jealousy. This person's gonna flip on you in 2 seconds. Like, I wasn't gonna tell you that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted you to enjoy the time that you have with those people. But I mean,
No, I agree. I don't think that you should have told me that. That wouldn't have been good. But at the same time,
and I'm not saying.
But now I just feel like everybody's gonna flip.
No, not everybody's gonna flip. You just have to realize that. Look, I mean. It's that Pusha T song. Man, niggas ain't dying for you. Like, how many people, like... My thing is, it's not like... I'm not even looking at it like, oh, these people are horrible. They're all jealous, nasty people. To me, it's like, you can't expect people to be willing to die for you.
No. I wasn't expecting anyone to die for me.
But, so that's my mentality. My mentality is like, would this person actually, like, take a bullet for you? There's, like, 2 or 3 people in my life where I'm like, that guy would take a bullet for me, and that girl would take a bullet for me. And, like... And vice versa. And there's lots of people I would not take a bullet for. Like, so...
It's so funny. I always picture you just jump in front of every bullet that flies.
Well, I think what you do on instinct is different from, like, what you would do from your heart. Those are not the same thing, right?
Oh, okay. I am right.
So, like... my thing is, like, with friendships, it's like, you can't... I can't expect people... Like, a situation happened or whatever, and I just look at people, I'm like, oh, they're just weak, man. Like people come back apologizing like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this, after everything blew. And I'm just like, I got no hard feelings to you, man. Like, you're just weak. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't, there's 8 billion people on the planet, they're not all gonna love you, man. They're not all gonna, you know what I mean? And so that's my perspective on it. It's just like, to me, like, that is the area of, like, the real, like, true friendship. And that might sound very extreme, and I might have that because I came from very extreme circumstances, and I just came out of, doing some very extreme work or whatever. And so, that's my mentality. But when you have those experiences, it's like, well, this guy's not, like... I'm just like, he was under some pressure and he folded under pressure. You can't be mad at somebody for folding under pressure. I mean, there are other stuff I was mad about, like, in particularly, basically abandoning those people. That bothered me a lot. But the personal stuff, like, I can't even be mad at them for that. You can't be mad at people for being weak and not being your friend to the end. It's very few people that are going to be willing to take a bullet for you. You have family members that would shove you in front of a train if it was between you and them. So,
yes. The thing is, though, I think that your experiences make it so that way you can see those things. Because, like I said, because I did the thing in the gutter, I said, this is more real than that. That was the realest thing that I ever had.
Right.
And you've had things that are way more real, so then you can spot, like... They always said, like, if you know all the counterfeits out there, like, they're going to come up with a new one that you're not going to know. You just have to know the real bill in and out, and that's how you spot a counterfeit.
Right.
And so I think that the lack of experiences with something real makes it hard to know. I thought that was so genuine, and then,
But again...
kind of freaks you out.
But that's honestly. The thing is, human beings are so complex, because it was genuine in the moment. But they were also, genuinely very, very jealous. I mean, and none of that was surprising. Like, there were some people you just could not get along with for no reason. There were people that would stare at you all weird and stuff. Like, people were obsessed with you and obsessed with how you were and all the rest of it. Like, none of that stuff was surprising. Like, as far as,
so. Just hurtful.
Yeah.
It's so, and you're like, whenever I say that, you're always like, yeah. Like,
no, I mean, I know that. I mean, I was there. I know it was hurtful for you. Just, you know, everybody pretty much acted the exact way that
everything
I
all
knew
happened at the same time. So then sometimes it feels like, because all the events kind of like all came together, then I understand that people like, there are way more traumatic things that people have gone through in their life. But that was like life shifting, all that stuff that was happening, literally life shifting for me. And I feel like I never ever recovered from that feeling. And I feel like a lot of my decisions get based off of the fears that came into me from that. Honestly. Why are you looking at me?
Yeah.
Which is obviously unfortunate, you know, because I think that there's a lot, you know, I don't know. There's a lot that can be had if you don't live your life in fear, but...
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I don't have a... You know... I just think probably having all these variegated experiences... Like, you know... Like, I feel bad for you, you know, and I kind of knew that you were naive to those things, right? And it was one of those things where it's like, I wasn't going to tell you, but... I think having all the very, very extreme... But then there's another part of me that's like, well, I'm glad that that's the... I'm glad you haven't gone through some of the things that I've gone through.
Oh, yeah.
To make me not care about things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm glad you didn't have to deal with losing family members in horrific ways and losing, you know...
Yeah.
Work buddies and friends in terrible ways, and, you know... I'm glad that this is a level of things that are troubling to you. So that's why I'm like. So it looks like I'm insensitive to it. I'm not. Like I feel terrible about it. But at the same time, it's like, you know, when I deal with it, you know, I just people are, you know, they're very fickle, and a lot of it has to do with who's around them at the time, and a lot of relationships are based on people's mutual need of things, and a lot of times people confuse that with an actual...
It always scares me when you say stuff like that.
You know, well, I mean, it's true though. A lot of relationships, a ton of them, are based on people's mutual need and what they need out of a situation, and if you can't provide that need for them, then they'll go somewhere else. And so, you know, especially people like me and you, it ends up going that way because, you know, that type of thing. And so, when I recognize it, it's like, you go through a stage of, oh, these people are using you, you resent them, and yada, yada. But then it's like, well, you know, people aren't trying to do that because they're horrible people. I mean, people are weak and they're hurt and they're this and they're that. And we've all done it in different various relationships and things of that nature. So... Mm-hmm. You know, and I come into it like consciously. You know, a lot of people go, "Oh, I helped this person. Look what they did to me." It's like, well, I mean, what did you help? You know, we've had that conversation. Like, what did you help them for? Did you help them so that they could owe you and be in your debt, or did you help them because in that moment they needed the help? There's nobody that I've ever done anything good for that flipped on me that I would not do again in a heartbeat in that situation, because, you know, I'm not doing it necessarily to that doesn't. People don't owe you anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still do the same things as far as helping people.
Yeah.
I just would have watched my back more.
Yeah, and again, I don't think, like, you don't necessarily have to even be paranoid about it. It's just, you just have to understand that, you know, would this person take a bullet for you? No. Okay. Well, then they're liable to sell you out. I mean, that's just it's just that simple. And then you just decide how much of yourself you're going to invest into that person.
Wow.
You know, and that's long and the short of it. And for me, like, coming out of the Bronx and coming out of the situations I've been in, to me, it's like, it's not fair. People who've grown up in the suburbs all their life and have been in one altercation in their life, it's not fair to put that on them and say, oh, you should have went to war with me and blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, it's like, how can you expect that from somebody? People in the hood were barely willing to do that stuff, and we were in it the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, so, I don't know. That's just kind of the way that I look at it. It's like, you can't expect that from people.
Yeah, I always saw myself to be like a very, like, ride or die, loyal type of person. But you're so much more so that it makes me feel like, well, where am I on the scale? Because you're very, you're very serious about your loyalties and your...
But that's with a very, very small group of people.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the thing. It's like, it's not like that with and that's the reason I'm able to do that, because it's concentrated into a very small group of people. My little brother, it doesn't matter what happens, where he is in the world, whatever, like,
yeah,
I don't care what he says, we've had, Facebook spats or whatever, like, that's my brother, that's it, like, period. So, because that group is so small for me, then you can pour out a lot more into it. But if you, like, spread it across everybody you see, or everybody that gives you warm fuzzies, or whatever, and you find yourself constantly trying to have a relationship with people who are upset at you for no reason, then you're going to have a lot less for those people who are actually in that circle.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way that I've always looked at it. And it just, the big thing for me is, like, I've seen so many bitter people in my life, man. Like, I don't want to have any, like, that in your gut resentment towards people. Like, I don't want to have that. There's enough, and to me, there's enough moments in the Bible, in the Old and New Testament, to where people are like, I love you, I'm just never going to see you ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jacob and Esau, like, they made up, it's very nice and all that, and then they never spoke to each other again.
Yeah.
And, I just think there's a lot of value in that. And there's a lot of, like, I'm a finite resource, and I am a finite, I have finite energy. And so where do you want to put the majority of your energy? You want to put your majority of your energy into everybody, and open up that all of yourself to everybody? Or would it be smarter to just do it for 2 or 3 people for a lifetime? And then you have very, very deep, intense relationships, and then you can become a fiercely loyal person to those people. Yeah. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's more about, like, conserving, your energy so that you can give it to the people who, are actually in that circle. Because, like I said, there are very, very few people on the planet who you're actually willing to die for, or who you would die for. I think there's members of your family you wouldn't die for either. You'd start thinking about your kids. You'd start thinking about Orion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, so that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make them bad people. Just, Anyway.
I don't know what I would do in those situations. I think, though, that when you're the type of person that, like, for me, I never, I thought, ride or die for your, like, very best friend. And then past that, you ride or die for your family no matter what. And then, obviously, once we got together, then it was like, when I realized that basically my family was making it so I had to choose, well, that was difficult, It was like, well, you're going to ride or die for your family, or are you going to, you know what I mean? So I kind of felt like I was... messy situation. Anyway.
Yeah.
I like this song. I like how heavy it was. What?
I like... Yeah, it's like 2 reviews in one. I like the song, too. It's a good song. Really, really good song. Good stuff.
It's a 9.2
9.3 for me. That's funny.
Close.
Very interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
Oh, why I'm here after all these years? You wanna know? Well, I'll tell you fucking why I go. For myself, for my friends, for my family forever. I'll take this to the bitter end. For myself, for my friends, for my family forever. I'll take this to the bitter end. Yo, the fuck are you? I'm still here and still proud, and I still know what it takes to be true.